Today, I'm going to do my race recap of the Disney Castaway Cay 5K. The Disney Castaway Cay 5K is a race that you can do if you're on a Disney cruise. Now, the cruise that we were on was on the Disney Dream, and it was a pirate-themed cruise. 4 days, Monday through Friday, but Friday we got off the boat very early. And on Wednesday of that week, so right in the middle, we got off the island at Disney's private island, Castaway Cay, which is in the Bahamas, and there was a 5K. Now, this is a race that's free to participate in if you're on the cruise. You just have to go to guest services to sign up, and there you just give them your room number and your name, and that's pretty much it. You're signed up. It's not really formal. It's not chip time. You're not going to get a special bib. You'll get a bib like when you show up that morning. Your name's not really going to be tied to your bib number. It's just a bib to have a bib, I think. There's only gun time, typical with like a lot of fun runs. And in fact, even if you don't sign up ahead of time, you can still do it. My parents decided the last minute, literally the last minute, that they wanted to try and do it too. And they came down and they were able to get bibs as well. But I think there's only a certain number of bibs. So if you're worried that they might run out of bibs, I would go ahead and sign up for it just to make sure you reserved your spot. So the morning of the race, we all met in deck 4 in one of the lounges of the cruise ship. You checked in, you scanned your card, you got a bib, got some pins to put the bib on your shirt, and they did a little bit of pre-race information, so a pre-race meeting, going over the course. You'd walk a little bit from when you get off the boat. You'd all walk together to the start line, start and finish in the same spot. You kind of run out and make a left once you got onto the airstrip. And from the airstrip, there's a little spot where you can go on a little bit of a loop. It's more like a lollipop in terms of the loop. And then you go around that, then run down the end of the airstrip. There's a little sign that tells you to turn back around. You run back down the airstrip into the loop a second time, and then back down the airstrip, and then make that same turn and double back until you get to the starting line. So a pretty straightforward course. That being said, I did almost get lost once, but that's normal. I get lost pretty much everywhere I go. There was only going to be one water station, but you'd pass it a couple of times. It was at the mouth of the loop, and so going into the loop, you'd see it. Going out of the loop, you'd see it. Coming back again into the loop, so you'd see it a couple of times, so it's strategically placed. But there's only 3 of the Disney cast members running this entire event, 1 at the start finish, and 2 at the water station. And so it's run pretty sparsely. And they asked you to hold on to your cup if you were going to get a cup for water during the race, because they didn't have like a lot of staff, like a cleanup crew afterwards to go pick up all the cups, or like a thing where you could like throw all your cups like in the garbage as you ran by. So a little bit different than a typical race there, but I can understand because it's a fun run and it's not like staffed with the normal number of people that you'd expect to staff a 5K, just a handful of people. So when we got off the boat, we walked down probably about a quarter to a half mile from the boat to the start line. And already by the time we had all kind of collected ourselves, had our pre-race meeting, then got off the boat, you need your key card, which you're supposed to have with you at all times kind of on the boat, and also your ID to get off the boat as well, because you are, I guess, technically entering the Bahamas. We all walked together, gathered really quickly, and then walked to the start line. By then, it was probably like 8:30, almost 9 o'clock, where we could, they said that one of the benefits of signing up for the race is that you and your family get to get off the boat first and kind of get first dibs on the best beach chairs and umbrellas and spots. But the rest of the boat could really start getting off the ship relatively soon. So before we even started the race, there were already other people on the island. So it's not a huge head start. So if that's like your only reason for running it, not a huge benefit, but it is a fun activity and a good chance to see a little bit more of the island. We got to the starting line area, and there is a little bit of a gear check. It's not a desk, or it's not like a formal gear check where they, put a tag on your bag and connect that to your bib number or anything like that. It's kind of, there was one large box that you could put all your stuff in, and then there was more stuff than box space. So some people had it on the side of the box, but it was also near water at the start and the finish. So everything's kind of all there, and the person who's in charge of the race is there the entire time. So I didn't really ever feel like that was a concern. I left my bag, even though it had my key card, my passport, my phone, and a change of shoes and some other stuff like sunscreen stuff that I would need for the day in there. I really wasn't concerned about it at all. When the race started, it was really abrupt.
Stay hydrated. The race begins in 3, 2, 1. Have fun. Get going. Get going.
And that was pretty much it. You know, there wasn't any like stretching. I thought there might be like, since it's a Disney cruise and other families and kids as young as 10 years old could participate, I thought there'd be like a group stretching activity or a group kind of warm up kind of thing. None of that. No one warmed up at all. No one like jogged around. No one ran sprints, did like butt kicks or anything like that. It was pretty much just like, okay, we're all here. Everyone ready? Go. And so we went. So once the gun went off, a couple of kids just darted out in the lead, and a couple of other people really started to get ahead of me, and I figured I'll just let kind of everyone go and get a gauge for what's going on. If there was going to be a lead pack that was going to go out real fast, I try to stay with them. But if everyone's going to be kind of relaxed, I would say pretty relaxed at the beginning as well. And that's kind of more what happened. I did eventually catch up to the kids, and I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to, because you never know with kids who are at a 5K. At my age, the kinds of races that I'm in, if there is a young person there, that young person usually is in like the top 1% of their peers. And so I'm always wary of young kids at a race. But these kids were just kids, just wanted to be out in front for a little bit. And very shortly after that, they kind of trailed off. But I found myself, once we got onto the airstrip, I kind of rounded the curve and I could see there was only one person ahead of me. And so I was in second place, which was a very strange feeling for me, until we headed into the loop. And so we headed into the loop, and there it's kind of like they've carved out this little path, and it's paved the entire way. A little path in between like the vegetation and foliage. And periodically there's like some like photo ops, like different props and stuff like that they've set out that you could take pictures in front of it. After all, it's a Disney run. They were a little bit kind of underwhelming. It looked like, you know, like crates that had washed up on shore, or old like anchors and other kind of nautical stuff. But it was hot. It was really hot.
Average pace, 6:29 per mile.
The sun was beating down on us. The temperature, I'm not sure exactly what the temps were, but I was instantly sweating and I felt very warm. And at first I was like, I don't know why they need to have so much water on a 5K. But by the time I got through the loop, I definitely could understand why, because it got hot, and this was in February. So I can only imagine in warmer months, it's going to be even that much hotter. About 3/4 of the mile into the race, about halfway through the loop that we were in, I came up and kind of caught the lead runner, and we chatted for a little bit. And he was saying he's feeling pretty good, but feeling also a little bit out of shape. And we talked a little bit more, and he kind of started trailing behind me, at which point I kind of took off a little bit further. And then I was just running kind of by myself before I even exited the loop. And that was also a really strange feeling. And I kept thinking, well, maybe there's someone really even further ahead of me that I haven't seen yet, and maybe I'm not really in first. But once I got out of the loop and I could see down towards the airstrip, I could get a really clear shot all the way down and back of anyone that might be in front, and there wasn't anyone. So it was strange to just kind of run, and the island was still kind of getting ready for all the passengers to get there. So there's trams and people driving vehicles all over the place, and so I was trying to just stay out of the way. And it was a little bit unclear where I should have been running, because it was a wide airstrip. It's wide enough to land, maybe not a jumbo jet, but a small plane could certainly land on it. I got towards the end, and I wasn't sure if there would be like a cone or some other indicator of like, you know, run at least past this spot before you turn around. But instead there was a kind of a barrel to the side with a U-turn kind of signal on it with 5K. So I ran past that a little bit and kind of just turned around and then started running on the opposite end of the airfield to go back. At which point we got a really strong headwind, which was nice because it cooled me off a little bit, but it was also just a little bit fatiguing. At that point, I think we were about 2 miles in. I was paranoid that someone was definitely going to catch me. But at the turnaround, I didn't see anyone behind me, so I had a chance to kind of see anyone that was coming. I didn't see anyone right away. And then I moved really far to the opposite end of the airstrip. And then as I was running, I could hear people cheering me on, because I think they saw that I was the first runner in the lead and they were cheering me. It was a very new feeling for me. I've definitely been on the other side of that where I've cheered on, and I always try to make a point of cheering on the lead runners. But this was the first time that anyone done that for me, so I was very flattered to have that happen, and it was a great feeling. I was in the Hoka Carbon Rocket, which is a brand new racing flat that Hoka has just come out with. It's got a carbon fiber plate in it and a 1mm heel drop. Not a ton of cushioning in the shoe. For the 5K, it was great. I definitely felt it at certain points. I've mentioned before that I think that the shoe kind of penalizes you or lets you know when you're not running pretty, and I definitely wasn't running pretty when I was getting tired. And so I had to kind of shape up a little bit and make sure and think about my running stride, at which point then kind of like a little bit of not pain in the heel, but I was noticing that I was hitting my heel on the ground probably more than I should have. And so it made me kind of lean forward and get on my toes just a little bit more. Other than that, the shoes were absolutely great to race in. Even though it was a hot day, I didn't feel heat at all. The shoes were extremely lightweight. They felt lightweight on my feet. And they were really great for racing. I think that the shorter distances are really what the shoe is made for. I'm definitely going to try to run in them in some longer distances. I don't know if I'll race in them in a longer distance, but I definitely will take them for longer tempo and interval work to see how they do. I'm pretty excited about them. I'm still pretty bullish on the Hoka Carbon Rocket. I think it's a great shoe. Going into the second loop, I saw my brother-in-law coming out of the loop and I cheered him on as well. And then I went into the loop for a second time, which was a little bit kind of a daunting feeling because I knew from having just done it how long it was and how much longer I'd have to be running at the pace I was running. And so I was a little bit mentally not broken down, but I didn't feel great about it going in there. And yes, it was still hot. But at this point, I was now having to also deal with other runners and trying to kind of weave in between them, which wasn't a huge deal. By then, people had kind of strung out a little bit, and so it wasn't too big an issue. I did see my mom while I was back there, which was really nice. I told her that I thought I was winning. I told her beforehand that I was going to try to be one of the leaders of the pack, if not try to win it, depending on who else was there, because you never know. There could be some random former D1 track star that just happens to jog a 5K at like a leisurely 18-minute pace. You never know. I didn't want to say that I was going to win it, but I told my mom that I was definitely going to try. And I told her as I passed her that I thought I was winning, and she got pretty excited, which was uplifting for me as well. I came out of the loop for the last time and turned back down the airstrip, and I was constantly looking over my shoulder because I just felt like there was probably some guy just waiting for the right minute to just completely burn by me, and it just never happened. I came down to the final point. There was like a turn. There's an intersection, a fork in the road, a literal fork in the road, and I could have gone either way. My inclination was to go to the right. I was definitely sure that I needed to go right there, and then just as I was about to go right, I saw a little sign on the ground that said 5K should go that way. So I made the turn to the left, averted getting lost on a short 5K race, which is basically an out and back, and I made it down towards the finish. There were only a handful of people there, some family members cheering on, waiting for their loved ones to cross the line, and the guy running the race, he had a handful of medals, and he was handing them out in front of the finish line. So I kind of ran past him to make sure I got through to the finish and ran the full 5K. There was only kind of gun time available, and I crossed the line somewhere between 20:09, which is kind of the time that I saw as I was crossing the line, and 2019, which is the time I had when I paused my watch. I forgot to bring my Stride foot pod along with me. I left it on the ship on a different pair of shoes that I've been running in all week. So I was pretty bummed about that because I wanted to see how it fared during race type conditions. So I only had my Apple Watch. I didn't have my phone with me. I only had the Apple Watch with me to keep track of the distance. It clocked in at 3.10. So I think that most fun runs tend to err a little bit on the short side. And so somewhere between 2009 and 2019 for the 5K. Not too bad for not warming up, not really having done any speed work over the winter time because it's hard to do that in Chicago. And during the middle of a cruise where most people are kind of indulging in a lot of food, which I also certainly was doing. I think for breakfast that day, I had 2 donuts and a plate full of pineapple and watermelon. So not exactly the breakfast of champions, but plenty of easy to digest carbs that were in there. So overall, it was a pretty fun race. The medal you get isn't a medal. It's rubber, but it is pretty nice. But it is pretty unique. It's got Disney Cruise Line. It's got a little picture of the boat on it, and it's very unique. It's unlike any other medal that I've ever seen. I've never done any other Disney races. It's always been on my list of things to do. It just hasn't worked out, but this experience, I just had a good time running it. Makes me more likely to try and do like a Disney half marathon at some point. I'd really like to do one of the Star Wars ones. That's kind of the one that are catching my attention most closely. So we'll see. I had just a really good time on the race. Waited for my brother-in-law to cross the line. He came in a couple minutes after me. Did really well. He's been running a lot lately. My dad also came in. He came in crossing the line and said, you know what, that course seemed a little bit short, don't you think? And I asked him, how short do you think it was? He says, about a kilometer. And I was like, did you run the loop a second time? Because that's about a kilometer. And he said, no, I only ran it once. So he may have accidentally cut the course a little bit. And then my mom came in a little bit after that. And afterwards, we were able to get the picture of the four of us in a photo. There's not a lot of times when I get to run in a race with my parents or even any of my other family members. And so to be able to get photos like that really means a lot to me. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think that if you're going on a cruise and if your kids are old enough to do it, it's definitely something you should do because it might be the first time you can get your kids into a 5K race and there's very little pressure. There's only a couple of weirdos like me that are going to try and take it seriously. So anything goes, lots of walkers, lots of walk joggers as well, like my mom. So like it's just a really good time. Not the most professional or kind of like strictly operated races you'll ever see, but it's the right tone, I think, for a race that happens in the middle of a cruise week. So those are my thoughts on the Disney Castaway Cay 5K and my kind of race recap and experience from it. Tomorrow, I will go over my thoughts about running while on a cruise in general. So if you're interested in that, about how I managed to get my miles in, even though we were pretty much trapped on a boat for most of the time, I'll be talking about that more in detail, and I'll kind of have my Disney cruise super vlog footage from that tomorrow. So stay tuned or hit the notification bell and subscribe so you can know as soon as that comes out. Although tomorrow is Sunday, so it'll come out Monday. I'm trying to take Sundays off in terms of my video release schedule, so that way it's 6 videos a week rather than 7. It's a little bit more manageable for me to do. So that'll be coming out Monday. That I've been working on. It's been taking a while, but I'm pretty happy about it. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. Whether you're there just for the Disney content or for the running content, hopefully that I think most people will enjoy a little bit of both to get the runner's perspective. So that'll be coming out Monday, or if it's already out by the time you watch this video, you'll see a little of a notification in the upper right-hand corner right there, and I'll post a link in the description as well. Normally at this point of the video, this is where I would talk about a charity runner for the day. What I try to do is spotlight a different charity runner every day. I talk about the charity that they're running for and the race that they are going to be running, but I'm tweaking the program a little bit. I think I'm going to go to a weekly charity runner spotlight, so that way I can better promote one person individually rather than being at $10 a day. I think I'm going to make it a bigger amount to go to one runner at a time. It also eases on the pressure for me because trying to get a different charity runner to spotlight every day has been a little bit of a challenge. So going to a weekly format might be what's going to come in the future, but we'll see. Some changes are coming. That's all I have for today. Thanks so much for watching my thoughts on the Disney Castaway Cay 5K, and thanks for making it to the end of the video. I will see you guys on Monday.
Yo, what's going on?